Story 1. I had open heart surgery 3 years ago. I had put on a brave face for so long, but I was honestly terrified, irrationally or not. The night before surgery, we lay in bed and suddenly the need to weep came over me. Nothing triggered it. It had just been bottled up for so long. She held me and comforted me. Not much was said. I just wept. For once, I felt safe. Honestly, it was the closest, most loving experience between us. I am tearing up writing this. I love this woman. Story 2. This will sound really corny, but a girl I was seeing in the early stages called me and said something to the effect of, "Hey, it's only me." Before I could say anything else, she stopped me and said, "Don't say it's only you. It's you." I had never been used to things like that, and it stood out to me. Story 3. She sewed a whole rug just for me, themed after a video game I like, for my birthday. Insane stuff. Some people would probably pay hundreds of dollars for it given how well made it is. I am still flabbergasted years later. She is the sweetest woman I have ever been with. Story 4. Back in college, I was working for the university in a number of roles. We had just built a new press box for the football stadium, and there was going to be an unveiling of a plaque for the family that donated millions to pay for it. The plaque was hidden behind curtains to keep it from being seen before the family was shown. It was a big event before an evening game. The athletic department decided someone needed to guard the plaque to make sure nobody saw it early. Really. And I got the job. Starting at 8 a.m., I sat on the floor outside the bottom of the press box as the temperature got into the 90s. The event wasn't until 6 p.m. The game started at 7:30 p.m. So, 10 hours of sitting alone in direct sunlight for the most part. Around 12:30 p.m., I saw this girl walking around the corner of the stadium. It was the first person I had seen all day. I was thinking, finally, I get to tell someone not to peek behind this curtain. When she got close enough, I realized it was my girlfriend. She had walked across campus to our favorite sandwich shop and bought us both the kinds of sandwiches we liked and 2 large iced teas. She figured I would have forgotten to bring lunch or drinks myself. She was right and thought guarding a plaque alone was dumb. Right again, so she got us lunch. That was in the fall of 1979, and we've been married for 42 years. Story 5 made me a cake for my birthday. I haven't had a homemade birthday cake since my mother made one for me when I was a kid. We are getting married in October. Story 6. My wife, who was then my friend, went to my new place that I had just moved into while I was at work. She cleaned the place, unpacked everything, and put it all away. She had everything done by the time I got home. I expected to spend a week slowly getting it done, but she completed it in a day. Story 7. My wife has taken it upon herself to organize a secret getaway this weekend for both of us. She told me that it will focus on me. I did something similar for her last year with wine tasting, coffee tours, and other things that she loves. We leave in a few hours. I don't even care where we're going or what we're doing. I know that whatever it is and wherever we go, it will have been planned with her focusing on me. For that alone, I will enjoy every minute. No one has ever done anything so thoughtful for me before. Story 8. When I failed and dropped out of my architectural degree and stayed in my college room unresponsive for 2 weeks in a depressive spiral, my mother drove many hours to find me, hug me, and tell me that it was okay and that life was worth living. She saved my life. Story 9. I was seeing a girl and passed out on her bed because I had just worked an overnight shift. I woke up, and she said, "I have something for you," and handed me my favorite energy drink. I asked her when she bought it, and she said, "I walked to the store while you were sleeping." She walked over 2 miles in a blizzard to the store that had my favorite, even though the store next door had my second favorite. I really miss her now. Story 10. I had a girlfriend in college who took the time to learn about my mental health struggles, and she has become my biggest source of support for the past 22 years. We will be married for 20 years next month. This experience inspired her to become a therapist, and now she helps others cope with their struggles as well. I will never be able to repay her, and I am still alive today because of her. That is not me being dramatic. I truly believe that. Story 11. I took my keys and drove to the hospital after I found out my grandparents were in a car accident and my grandfather did not survive. Story 12. My wife knows my birthdays were never anything special growing up. She goes all out for me, fully decorating a room and making a custom cake every year. She makes the day fun, and I can't love her more for it. Story 13. My sister-in-law got me a Mohawk phrase book. She found out I was trying to learn the language, but resources are much scarcer than with more common languages. Story 14. In the worst time of my life, my group of women friends took care of me in a way that I will never be able to repay adequately. My wife was going through some serious difficult times and ended up making an attempt on her life. I work in a women-dominated field, and most of my friends are women because of it. When they found out what had happened and how devastated I was, this group of 5 were there. They ensured I knew I was loved and understood that they cared about both me and my wife. They made sure I didn't need to cook. They made sure my dog was taken care of during the first few days my wife was hospitalized. They even made sure they kept tabs on me to ensure I didn't do anything harmful myself. One, older than me, saw how dazed I looked at work one day as this was all happening, and pulled me into a private, empty office. No sooner had she shut the door than I broke down. I ended up sobbing, and she just hugged me and let me cling to her. I will never forget how much I needed that in that moment, as little as I live. They did it without any desire or expectation that I owed them anything. They were truly my mother, sister, and daughter, depending on their ages relative to mine. They kept me moving forward at a time I was staggered by what had happened. I am now teary just remembering how amazing it felt to have that little lifeline of light to cling to when my world had gone black. It always saddens me when I see people claiming men and women can't just be actual friends without it becoming sexually motivated, because they showed me that that notion is simply wrong. Story 15. A woman gave birth to me and raised me the best she could with very limited means. Rest in peace, Mom. Thank you for bringing me here. Story 16. She took a video of me walking on a bridge, which I was not aware of. When I watched it, she pointed out everything I did and how it was unique, good, and kind. She made me feel seen. I will never have that again. Story 17. A woman I met learned how to make a dish from my childhood after I mentioned it once. She made it so well I cried. She did this the very next day because she heard how much I missed it. Story 18. For Valentine's Day, she bought me a gold necklace, baked me cookies, and made me a custom matching sweater. All at a time when I had very little to no money to give. And the card. She called me the best man she ever knew. What did I do? Story 19. My fiancé bought me a training ring. We are getting married in October. 2 things I am very worried about are losing a lot of items and the discomfort of wearing things on my hands. This training ring is made of the same material but is as inexpensive as possible. It is something I do not mind losing, and it is helping me get used to the feeling of wearing a ring. Story 20. My wife set up a surprise party for my 50th birthday. It was at a lovely restaurant in a private room. My closest friends were there, including my oldest friend who flew across the country to be with me. It was great. Story 21. I honestly do not even know. My wife does so many things daily that make me just melt. I cannot even keep track. I would be nothing without her. Story 22. My girlfriend got me an early birthday present on our first date. She made the card herself, drew on the front in a cool font, and wrote a love note on the inside cover of a volume she bought me of a manga series I like. I thought it was very sweet, and I knew from that moment she was going to be a keeper. Another time, when I was in high school, a girl I was friends with made me a batch of cupcakes on my last day of school because I was moving out of the city a week later. It was very nice, and each cupcake had my name on it. It has been 10 years since then, and I still think that is one of the most thoughtful things someone has done for me. Story 23. She made me a tiny study survival kit during exams. Tea, chocolate, and a note that said, "You've got this." I still have the note. Story 24. One of my former clients, now turned friend, bought me a pair of sneakers for my birthday in my favorite color. I wore them right out of her house like a middle schooler wearing new shoes to the store. Story 25. Made a picnic for my birthday by the lake. It was such a sweet, Small gesture seeing her excitedly telling me why she chose each thing in the basket. Story 26. I was going through a rough patch. I didn't talk about it much because I tend to shut down when things pile up. My ex noticed but didn't say much. Then one weekend, she told me that we were going to do a reset. She showed up at my place with a bag of stuff, comfy socks and snacks I didn't even know she noticed I liked. Then she cooked my favorite meal and we did nothing all day. We just sat around, watched movies, and napped. It wasn't about the things. It was that she really saw me. That kind of thoughtfulness is rare. Story 27. My mom was comforting me as she was dying. She was on heavy painkillers and barely lucid most of the time, not like the smart and strong mom I remembered from just months before. I was a scared 21-year-old about to be thrown into a special kind of hell. One of her last moments, as close to herself as she could be under the circumstances, was to tell me it would be okay while resting her hand on my head. Story 28. I had a stroke in 2024. I got divorced around 2017. Within a few days, my ex-wife was at my bedside, even though she had to fly over from another country, which is a 13-hour flight. I had not sent her a message or called her. Our kids must have. I thought that was kind and concerned. It was nice to see her. She even cut my toenails for me while I was still in the hospital. Story 29. He wrote me love letters and gifted them to me before I moved across the country for work. Even though we broke up, I still have the letters and do not think I will ever part with them as they mean a lot to me. Story 30. She bought my entire Amazon wishlist. For about 2 to 3 weeks, I received a new package or gift of something I actually wanted. I married her. Story 31. For my birthday, my girlfriend gave me roses, which I love, and 22 of my favorite things leading up to me turning 23. It was hands down the most thoughtful and personal gift I have ever received. Every single item showed how deeply she knows me and how much love she put into making it special. Story 32. She took me to the fanciest restaurant in our city. I did not know mortals like me were allowed to step foot in there. Story 33. An ex made me a birthday dinner and got me a cake with ice cream. Even though the relationship did not end well, it is pretty memorable. Beyond that, I cannot remember anything else really coming close. Story 34. Moved her entire life with me multiple states away while I was going through some horrible family trauma, and returned to my home state when opportunities opened there. Loved my dogs like they were her own. Put up with every poor decision and depressive moment I had. Gave me the best decade of my entire life. Loved me like I never thought I could be loved. Showed me the love a family can provide. Even took her time falling out of love with me and getting over the relationship before telling me, so I could watch her be happy with someone else, because her happiness was all I ever wanted. Story 35. After my family got me a cake they knew I did not like for my birthday, she got me my favorite one the following weekend when she came over. Story 36. When I was 19, I was hooking up with a 24-year-old coworker off and on. One day, she brought me a bouquet of roses in a vase mid-shift in front of half the staff. I was floored. Being a man, this just did not happen. Story 37. I have had the privilege of being loved and cared for by every ex of mine, but my girlfriend easily surpasses them all. She lives in a different country, and I am the one who visits her every time. Each visit, she prepares my place as if it were my home before I even arrive. Kitchen equipped with all the utensils, pictures of my friends and family on the wardrobe, work desk, and more. She says she always wants me to feel at home and that my space should reflect that. When we sleep together, she ensures her house has everything I might need. Story 38. I gifted some jewelry and accessories to a friend. Now she makes sure to wear them whenever we meet. Unfortunately, my small brain already forgot what I gifted her. Sometimes I slowly realize, hey, I think I have seen that necklace somewhere, and it dawns on me that I gifted her that. I feel a wave of affection towards her every time that happens. It is a very sweet gesture. Story 39. My ex threw me a surprise party for my 20th birthday. We had only been together for about 6 months at the time. She found all my childhood friends and invited nearly everyone I had ever known to the party. Regardless of what happened afterward, I will always remember that as special. Story 40. My best female friend did an unprompted medicine drop-off for me when I was dealing with a severe case of streptococcal pharyngitis. She brought some sore throat medication and soup. She is the best. Story 41. Been civil during the breakup, then randomly thanked me years later for all that I did, like raising our child for 3 years while she was absent. Story 42. My wife, who is a nurse, did a ride along with me at my job in an ambulance because she wanted to truly understand what I go through at work. It meant a lot to me and still does. Story 43. Still wished me a happy birthday even after we had a falling out. Little things like that are what matter. Story 44. My wife stayed by my side when I had many health problems and severe depression on top of that. She endured all of that and more until I became myself again. I will never forget that. Story 45. I was caught off guard because they asked for a picture of me and just said, "Okay, I hope you don't mind that I drew you." It meant a lot to me. Story 46. During a therapy session, I mentioned I was coming down with a case of bronchitis, and my therapist freshly brewed me some tea. It was such a kind gesture that I did not know how to react. Story 47. When my ex kicked me out unexpectedly, she stacked all my belongings in a perfect pile. I thought to myself, she is so nice. Story 48. My sister had a bit of a meltdown once because she was going through a lot. She felt really bad about it and apologized by buying me a Lego kit. I was not even bothered by her behavior. Honestly, it was a pretty valid breakdown, but she still felt bad about involving me. Story 49. She made me a homemade birthday cake and planned a surprise birthday party for me. I hope she is doing well. Story 50. We had to do a confidential task at work for a pool. We needed a volunteer who was trustworthy. Lisa spoke up and said, "I trust Carl, just Carl, to do it." So I received the task. The way she said it was very flattering. Story 51. When we were in a relationship, my ex bought me some painting supplies and a Pikachu-themed Nintendo Switch controller grip for Christmas. She knew that I create artwork and that I love Pokemon. It caught me by surprise that she got that for me so soon. We had only known each other for about 3 months at that point, and we were in a relationship for about a month. Story 52. My wife bought a boat without telling me because she knew I was too frugal to do it myself. I was very mad at first, but after a few days, I realized how thoughtful it was. Story 53. My current partner knew I was having a bad day and brought her puppy over for me to play with in my backyard. This is the first of many thoughtful things she has done during our relationship so far. Story 54. My grandmother died a few years ago, and our entire family was deeply affected. As most people who have experienced an Italian grandmother's cooking know, they are exceptional cooks. Beyond the wonderful pasta, polenta, and other Italian dishes, my grandmother also made incredible chocolate chip cookies. My girlfriend at the time had a custom plate made with the cookie recipe printed on it in my mother's handwriting, as my grandmother's was often difficult to read. It is the most thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me. I miss the warmth I felt from both of these women very much. Story 55. I received a compliment from a female team member about how I am a good manager and how she shares with her husband, sister, and family all about me. I could have cried. It is so rare. Story 56. Came home from work on my birthday, and she spent all day making a homemade strawberry chocolate cake. She decorated it to the best of her ability. When I came home and saw the smile on her face as she asked me, "So, what do you think?" I had never felt so attracted to someone in my entire life. Story 57. The first person who came to mind was a friend who called me when I was experiencing anxiety. I had just been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder at the time, and they wanted to check on me. Story 58. I told her about growing up. There were no family photos in the house. No pictures of us as kids. No pictures with my parents or anything. The gift she got me for Valentine's Day was pictures of her and me from some of the various dates and activities we did together. Another thing is cross-stitching is one of her hobbies. My favorite Pokemon is Cyndaquil. She cross-stitched me a Cyndaquil with the words, "I choose you." Story 59. A colleague got me a locker at work. There was a limited number available, and one was just standing in a conference room, so she claimed it for me. She also booked an eye exam for me because she knew I would not get around to it. Though she could be difficult to talk to, she felt like a real friend because of what she did, not what she said. Story 60. She brought, to be honest, smuggled in a piece of my favorite cake in her lunchbox from her friend's party. Her friends didn't know we were dating, and even if they did, they would have been against it. She once bought a box of expensive sweets. She was studying at that time, so had only an allowance and no income, just because I had casually mentioned it a few days ago. It was very heartwarming, as I had been going through a difficult phase of my life. Both were food items. You can rightly say, she did win my heart through my stomach. Story 61. Threw me a surprise 40th birthday. I had absolutely no idea. Got home and all my friends and family were in our kitchen. Made me feel really special. Story 62. Asked me if I was okay, and that is my actual answer. It was during high school, and at the end of the year I gave her $500 because she was the only person who asked me if I was okay. Story 63. I was driving her, and the window randomly got stuck. A few minutes later, she started looking for ways to unstuck it. Story 64. Once in a while, if the timing is right, a woman will briefly hold the door of a public building open for me. Story 65. I woke up one really hot summer night and found my girlfriend had brought a cold sponge and a cold bucket of water to cool me down by washing me in my sleep. Story 66. Kissed the acne scars on my chest. I think I teared up. Others have said my scars are attractive, so that was nice too. Story 67. I'm currently still talking to this girl. We went on one date, and in the following days she found out I love banana bread muffins. The next time I saw her for the second date, she sent me home with 12 muffins and an 8 by 12-inch cooking pan full of banana bread. Then, she found out I have a small heater for tinfoil lunches in my tractor. On the third date, she brought me 4 frozen lasagnas in tinfoil pans for me. I never had to ask her anything. She just made it knowing that I enjoyed it. I have talked to lots of girls, but none have done that for me yet. Story 68. Remembers the things I have shared that she likes. She shared a slideshow where she remembers me the most as well. Story 69. When I got set up for arson, a medic I lived in the same city as and picked up calls for, if she was near, would come in and check on me after I was found inside my house fairly drunk, trying to figure out how to reach the trigger of my shotgun. This was due to 2 of our coworkers burning their house down and claiming I was responsible, as they had gotten me suspended a week prior to the arson. When I quit and fell into a slump, she would throw me in the shower, joking that I smelled badly. I think that was the only time I laughed in a long time. She made sure I got my medicine, and when she found out who my mom was in my life, she became very protective and secured my account information. She corrected all the previous actions my mom had taken to make stealing my identity easier. I don't know why she cared. I only offered to help her and her patients if I ever could and was available. Being set up was terrible, but she said I lost my light and wanted to make sure I got it back. This post hit me hard. Story 70. I went on a very boring work trip for a week to a small town. There was nothing to do, the sunset was quite early, and it rained the entire time. I returned home, and she made me chili con carne. The thoughtful part is that she is vegetarian. She made delicious chili without tasting it. Story 71. A girl in college wrote a very thoughtful diary entry about the time we first met and gave it to me as a present for my birthday. To this day, that is one of the most earnest and thoughtful displays of affection I have ever received. Story 72. I did a week-long bike patrol tryout for a previous job. My wife cooked spaghetti for a week straight, washed my padded biker shorts every night, and prepared an Epsom salt bath for me each day when I got home. The tryouts were brutal, with over 50 miles each day through the mountains and off-road, but that support helped me get through it and I passed in the end. Story 73. My wife took care of me when I had surgery for a broken leg. On my first night home from the hospital, she went downstairs every hour or two to get me fresh ice packs. Story 74. My girlfriend bought me flowers when a friend and former bandmate passed away unexpectedly 2 weeks ago. Story 75. Long ago, I had an ex-girlfriend come home from work and bring me flowers. I had never received flowers from anyone before, and to this day, 16 years later, it has never happened again. She nailed it, got my favorite color, did not pick anything super fancy, but knew I liked to have something that smelled nice. I still think about that girl. Story 76. Stood up to me, called me out, and helped me see I needed help that I was oblivious to. I was having an absolute nightmare at work. 2 of my team quit, I was trying to cover 3 jobs, and I was constantly behind and fighting fires. Outwardly, I was stressed but managing it. But I couldn't sleep. I would wake up panicking about things I might have missed. However, if I had a drink or 2 after work, it would take the edge off. Hey, maybe I'm Don Draper, yeah, I'm cool. A bit of a gin cocktail after work, maybe a whiskey or 2. Quickly, and scarily so, I needed a drink to sleep. How else would I stay asleep? At first, she was supportive and gentle, letting me try to work it out. But as soon as it looked like a crutch, she confronted me and kicked it away. She could see I was lying to myself and had started down a path I couldn't see. She told me straight how I was turning into something gross, something I would hate. Not only that, she encouraged me to seek help. I spoke to a doctor. I don't know why. I'm doing okay, but my girlfriend wanted me to call. I mean, yeah, I'm stressed out, but I need to be. How else can I juggle it all? Not every night. Well, actually, maybe, yeah, every work night. Anything else? Well, I do kind of have this feeling that if I relax, something will get me. Like I've missed something and it'll blow up in my face. The doctor signed me off sick. I was off the nightcap and on antidepressants. I didn't realize how bad I was until someone cracked open the gray box I was in. Suddenly having nothing to do. Well, I thought, I'll just go for a walk then, I guess. Wow, it's pretty nice out today. My girlfriend also got me a book on cognitive behavioral therapy, or I bought it while with her, and then I ended up on a phone session with a cognitive behavioral therapy specialist. Just hearing everything isn't my responsibility sounded so dumb, but that's where my head was. Like the most self-destructive main character syndrome you can imagine. They taught me a method for handling stressful situations so they don't always feel like a conflict I have to battle. All because my girlfriend saw the creep of a crutch. I wonder sometimes if she hadn't caught me where I'd be. Also, she buys me flowers because I like them and forget gender norms. I like a bunch of flowers in a vase on my coffee table. Story 77. Reading all of this makes me realize how difficult my life is, but it gives me hope that one day it will be better. Story 78. If you exclude my immediate family, which has many thoughtful and memorable events, it's pretty disappointing. I'm struggling to think of anything worth mentioning. It's not that I'm ungrateful. I just can't say women have been very thoughtful towards me based on my experience. Some older women, those aged 60 and above, have done some thoughtful things. One of my toxic ex-partners would occasionally fix me a bologna sandwich and bring it to my work during college. But she did that because she was bored and lonely at the apartment and wanted to spy on me, as she didn't think I was working. This is the same ex who, after I sprained my ankle badly and asked her to help drive me to a clinic to get it looked at, refused, and I had to drive myself. She would give me oral sex sometimes when I was working at home, which was a very nice thing to do, but I'm trying to think of non-sexual favors. A female friend of mine once shared a collection of chemistry lab notes from someone who did very well in the class last semester when I told her I was having difficulty. That was thoughtful. This is an interesting question because I've never reflected on it. Men have been significantly more thoughtful with me, both just friends and those I dated. There are more things than I care to mention. Some were so kind and thoughtful they even brought tears to my eyes. I don't think a woman has ever done that. Story 79. One girlfriend jumped into a fight I was losing with a bat to help me escape. Another girlfriend rewrote my resume for me, landing me a better job. A third girlfriend made the perfect steak dinner followed by a perfect intimate moment for my birthday. A stranger, female, gave me a cough drop when I was choking on the metro. Story 80. Made sure I got my backpack at my new job onboarding. I am pretty sure she was showing interest in me, but who can say? Story 81. Staying with me after all the mistakes I have made, including almost being an alcoholic and a drug addict. I am clean thanks to her. Story 82. Stayed with me and supported me through alcoholism, depression, suicide attempts, and many other challenges. Story 83. One girl created a handmade or hand-folded box with different stickers and drawings on each side representing our common interests and things we have done together in the past, with little pop-up elements. Good heart. I hope she has found happiness. One girl went to carve my name onto a leather holder. That is okay. One girl went to a Lego shop and got my name printed on a Lego brick. That shows low effort. My ex-wife went and learned how to cook all the food I like. Story 84. Last summer, I worked at a summer camp and really started to get along with one of the other girls working there. We got 1 hour off per day and 1 evening off per week. While there, I injured my feet, so every day I had to take a lot of medication, soak the cuts in salt water, and change the bandages. This took about 30 minutes, so I would do it during my hour off in a small medication storage room. Every day, she would conveniently take her break at the same time as me and take the same night off as me. We went out once but never made things official, which was my mistake. We ended up having a huge fight, so now we don't talk anymore, which is also my fault, but she doesn't hate me anymore. I still really miss her every day. Story 85. A woman noticed I was not my usual self at work and asked me what was wrong after our shift, offering to give me a lift home. I told her how depression was taking its toll, and she offered me kind words. The next day at work, she made a list of things she liked about me and things she thought I should hold on to and live for, as I was in a very dark place back then. Story 86. My significant other surprised me with a birthday gathering at one of our favorite places to eat. I went to the host and asked for a table for two, and they said, "I think your party is here already," pointing to a table full of my friends. Then a cake was brought out that my significant other had arranged, styled like Macho Man Randy Savage. That's when I knew I would marry them. Story 87. The time my wife spent with my mother as she was dying in hospice. She talked to her, combed her hair, and tended to her even though she was comatose. She was there for my mother's last breath. I had been there and left a week prior because we lived on the other side of the country and my vacation was ending. Story 88. We were finishing up a date late at night and walked past a tiny park on Main Street, completely empty. There was a public piano set up in the middle of the park, so we went over to check it out. I can't really play beyond a couple of basic parts of songs, and neither could she, so we were just messing around on it together. I told her one of my goals was to be able to play Canon in D because it is one of my favorite songs. I think it sounds beautiful on the piano. Without saying a word, she suddenly launched into playing Canon in D completely out of the blue. I was dumbstruck and sat there in total silence. The whole scenario was very moving to me. After she was done, I asked her where she had learned to do that, and she said, "I was bored one day and taught it to myself." I still remember that night. Story 89. I am genuinely struggling to think of anything specific that a woman who is not my mother has done for me. I do not know if a friend inviting me to her birthday party counts, but then that might. Story 90. Consistently paying her half of the bills. Not once in nearly 6 years has she ever been late. To me, that is pretty significant. Story 91. She was a coworker. At that time, I was very interested in Japanese animation and collecting figures. We bonded over Japanese animation and watched the Monogatari series together. Completely unexpectedly, she bought me a figure of Senjugahara for my birthday. It is still the most thoughtful gift I have ever received. Story 92. She gave birth to me and invested a couple of decades to care for me and raise me well. You cannot beat that. Story 93. I told her in passing that I had a really cool Scott Pilgrim coin that I used for making decisions. Months later, she surprised me with a similar-sized coin and gave it to me. It was small, but it was nice. Story 94. Even if I can't stand her now, she carried and gave birth to my 3 children without question. Story 95. I have lost a significant amount of weight over the last few years, so I sometimes forget that my limits are different now. While we were out, I went a bit too far, and she convinced me to sit on a stool while she leaned on me for a while to make sure I did not fall over. Then she got another man to come with her and walk me back to my room. Story 96. She bought me a video game I had expressed very minimal interest in. We did not work out, but I will never forget someone dropping full price for a game I said looked like it might be fun. Story 97. I was 39, divorced, with 2 children. I did not have a lot of money either. This 27-year-old single woman with no children fell in love with me as much as I loved her. I have no idea what she saw in me, but 26 years later, we are still together and still in love. Nothing can ever top that. Story 98. I was depressed for several days, and she bought me the book, 10,000 Things to Be Happy About, and proceeded to handwrite items throughout the book that she loved about me and the things we have done together. I have never been so touched. Story 99. My 31-year-old fiancé, 25 years old, gifted me a journal for my birthday last year. It was intended to contain entries from her about things that made her smile about me or our relationship. It has turned into a back-and-forth documentation from both of our perspectives of our journey together. It is full of happy, silly, fun, and heartfelt memories. I struggle to remember many details of certain events, so it has truly been the best and most meaningful gift I have ever received. I love reading her new entries and looking back at old memories. She is truly something special, and I cannot wait to marry her. Story 100. I don't mind touching you. I was 17. I had gotten my first girlfriend, and she said this when I was hesitant about lying in the same bed with her and just broke down. I have always kind of found myself disgusting. The last time before her that I remember being hugged or someone putting their hand on my shoulder without me needing to ask was at my uncle's funeral when I was 13. God, I miss her. Story 101. I cannot think of anything, and that is kind of depressing. I am sure there have been things, but the fact that they are not memorable is pretty bad. Story 102. I had just started dating a new girl. This was back when Facebook was relevant. I posted something silly on my girlfriend's Facebook, and she responded positively. Let's call her Amanda. However, her friend found a way to take offense. Let's call her Jane. Jane commented on my post and insulted me. I didn't take that lightly, so I fired back, and we were off to the races. Eventually, Amanda became the referee and called for peace. But not before I gave Jane one final profane parting shot. I had just insulted my new girlfriend's best friend. No matter who was right or wrong, I figured I was probably single again at that point. So, imagine my surprise when Amanda showed up at my door unannounced, armed with a large pizza from my favorite pizza place. We shared the pizza, talked things over, and everything worked out. Apparently, Jane has some issues that make her do stupid things like insult strangers on Facebook. But whatever, I got a free pizza out of it. Story 103. In college, I was turning 22. Most friends were traveling, and I wasn't really looking forward to a lonely birthday. I remember the day was very disappointing. However, the 2 sweethearts of the fraternity, both friends of mine, made me cupcakes with my favorite icing, wrote me a letter, and came by. It made me feel very happy and brightened my whole month, even my whole year. I will always remember that kind gesture. Story 104. A friend of my wife bought a special kind of bottled water for me because I cannot handle anything with sugar. I think I mentioned it once 4 months ago. Story 105. She took a bus from Quebec City to Massachusetts to surprise me. She insisted I don't call out of work to see her. I did 2 days though. I was an intern. It didn't matter. She is one who will always have a special place. Story 106. A coworker gave me chocolate for helping her with a work assignment. It was no issue for me to do. I don't think I'll ever forget it. Story 107. I have never really had a woman do anything thoughtful for me. However, reading some of these stories brings a tear to my eyes. These are very sweet and beautiful stories in this thread. It makes me happy for all of you that you have found women who care so much. Story 108. 1 year after I proposed, my fiancée proposed back to me. She surprised me by changing the local movie marquee to read, "Will you marry me too?" She dropped down on one knee and gave me a ring. She said, "You deserve to know what it feels like to be chosen." It was unbelievable. Story 109. Threw a surprise birthday party for me. I will never forget that. It is something I have always wanted but did not know how it would happen. Story 110. At 15, she took me by the hand and led me to a grassy hillside where we kissed. At that age, I could never have done this of my own volition. Story 111. Not very major compared to the life-changing events in this thread, but a girl I was not even really seeing got me an autograph from the screenwriter of Spider-Man 1, knowing that I love that movie very much. Story 112. Stole over $35,000 worth of my personal belongings, and the police deem it a civil matter because she lived in the same place as me. Not anymore. So very thoughtful. Story 113. Isn't it scary that I honestly cannot think of one example in 35 years that does not involve my immediate family? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.